I'm James Demer, the audio nomad. Today we're going to do a review on the Kiwi Ears Ellipse, which is a 50mm dynamic driver open back headphone. Let's get into it. Kiwi Ears have introduced a couple of headphone models lately. They just rolled out the Division, which I reviewed, and that's a closed back headphone, $49. You can watch my review on what I thought of that. Generally, I think it's pretty decent. But the Ellipse comes in at $59, and in my opinion, this is the better buy of the two. It's an exceptional headphone. Let me tell you why. So the Kiwi Ears Ellipse comes in a standard box. It's $59. It comes in a nice box. It lists the specs on the side. They say that it's a DJ monitoring headphone, 32 ohm impedance. It's 98 dB SPL at a milliwatt, and 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz is the frequency response, which I'll take their word for it. I actually didn't measure this headphone, but I did spend quite a bit of time listening to it. I spend more time listening to this than I normally do with things that I'm reviewing because I just loved it so much. I have to be honest, I'm a big fan of the Audio Ghost, which was I think it was $150. I got them for $50. Also a 50mm dynamic driver, open back headphone, fairly cheap construction, but just great sound. And the Kiwi Ears Ellipse, I think might be even better for me. Let's talk about construction before we get into how it sounds. So remembering that it's $60, the headband appears to be made out of shaped aluminum with a fairly soft foam. I wouldn't say it's a dense foam. The clamping force on this headphone is good. I'd say it's just right for my head. It clamps nicely, but it never felt too clampy, and I did listen to it for quite a while. I listened to the Kiwi Ears Ellipse with my glasses off so that I wouldn't influence the sound by having the arm of my glasses open the ear pad at all. It is an open back, but what's interesting about this open back is when I was listening to it, I asked my wife, compared to some other headphones that I have that are open back, how the sound bleed was. And she said she could barely hear sound coming out of the back of the Kiwi Ears Ellipse. And when I play music and I hold it together like this, I would also say that it's not as open as some other model open back headphones that I have or have used. So I like that because it gives you a little bit more option in terms of using the headphones in public spaces or just not wanting to disturb someone. The other side of that is also that when they're on your head, some open backs feel like, there's no isolation of sound at all, but these felt quite isolating. I would say almost as much as a closed back, and that's a good thing for me. The cable on the Division, the $50 closed back Kiwi Ears Division, was total garbage, but this cable is actually really nice. It's probably a copper cable with a braided cover and a nice splitter that the length, I would say, is pretty good from the headphone to the splitter. The cable itself is 3 meters long, which I felt like I could walk around my neighborhood and leave my computer at home and not run out of cable. It's probably a little long. I don't think it needs to be 3 meters. I'd be happy with 1.5 meters, half the length, but that's okay. It does come with a 3.5 with a 6.3 screw-on jack, and that's awesome because some of my home equipment that I use to amplify headphones is a 1/4 inch or 6.3 millimeter jack. So I like that. The quality of the cable, as I said, is good. The strain relief is good. It's gold connectors. You get a fairly standard mono, I believe it's 3.5 millimeter termination at the headphone end, which will give you a lot of options if you do want to mod these with a different cable. The details are really nice. Like the pivot screw is a Torx head that's kind of a stainless. I'm not sure how they achieved this finish, but it just looks really nice. The Kiwi Ears logo, the grill that covers the backside of the driver also looks really nice. And it appears that there's like it looks like a stainless steel mesh that's under what I believe is aluminum grill. The details, honestly, I'm shocked that these are $60 because they do not look like $60 headphones. They look like they'd cost a lot more. One thing I'm not crazy about from an aesthetic standpoint is the Kiwi Ears logo in sort of bright white on the outside of the headphone. It's sort of a stark contrast to this all black look of the headphone. I would have muted this a little bit, maybe made it a little more subtle. I do understand that Kiwi Ears probably wants everyone to know that this is a Kiwi Ears. It just is a little jarring to me. It also has this, I'd call it like a polished aluminum bezel around the grill. And I actually think that looks really nice. The ear pads are fairly round, and I would say that from a fit standpoint, I have a fairly small head, and sometimes getting headphones to fit me in a way that I like is tricky. And these do tend to, they stay in place when you get them where you want them, but I think I must have some OCD because as I'm moving around, I'm constantly thinking, are the cups exactly where I need them to be so that the sound is optimized? Because it does change when they slide around in your head. And generally it was never a problem because the headphones are fairly light and the clamp force is, as I said, just right. They do have a little bit of the ability to pivot this way, kind of, I guess this would be laterally. I never found the fit to be a problem. The ear pads are very nice. They are a faux leather and they're a good thickness. I'm sure that from an acoustic standpoint, it was well thought out, but also from an ergonomic standpoint or an anatomic standpoint, my ears don't touch the foam that's inside the ear pad, which is nice. I also liked that my ears didn't get super, super hot. Some headphones I wear for a while and feel like my ears are sweating. I didn't get that with the Kiwi Ears Ellipse. Let's talk about the sound. So I immediately noticed that these headphones are special. And I have to caveat this by saying I don't listen to a lot of different headphones. I listen to a lot of different IEMs, and I listen to headphones a lot, but I don't listen to a lot of different headphones. I don't have access to a lot of headphones. I have a friend who has a Focal Utopia. I listen to that. I've got a few sets of interesting headphones at home that I enjoy, but generally speaking, I'm an IEM guy. Every time I put on a track to audition and think about what I was listening for so I could tell you, the audience, what I thought of these headphones, I found myself forgetting that I was auditioning headphones for a review and just sort of sinking into the music. Like every track it happened. And maybe it was the mood I was in, maybe it's because it was a rainy day outside, I don't know. But I love the way that these presented music. And everything was just kind of right. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a rundown of some of the tracks that I listened to because I did keep notes on my phone. The first track that I listened to was Rock With You by Mike Ladone, which is a Michael Jackson cover. It's all instrumental and it features a Hammond B3 organ. There's a lot going on. There are a lot of layers. It's a dense track, a lot of instrumentation, and The tonal balance was just right with this headphone. I didn't find that it was sort of shouty or fatiguing. The Hammond B3 had a sort of that rich guttural sound that I like. You know, you could hear the key strikes a little bit, which is always sort of fun. It's that sort of buttery, like that buttery thing that happens. The Leslie wheel spinning around, like all that stuff was just like perfectly set in the mix. I loved it. Next track. I pulled out an oldie, Janis Ian at 17, and that's a 70s slow instrumental. It's a more sparse track. I like this track because it's mixed really well. It's for sure all analog, and also the female vocal was just right. It wasn't too honky or shouty or too recessed. Beautiful balance, nice tonal reproduction. Layered instruments sounded cohesive, yet still exhibit nice separation. Vocals set perfectly in the mix. Yeah, that's how I describe it. Then I pulled out my 2024 Summer Jam fun favorite by Wolfman, Got to Be Mine, which is Wolfman is, what's the guy's name? Jack from Wolfpack, kind of a solo thing. It's got female vocal in it. It's really fun because it's poppy bass. It has a flute, and it's a I would say just a well-balanced, well-mixed pop song. And it was fun to listen to. Everything just felt good. I just vibed to that track. I vibed to it because I was having so much fun listening to these headphones and listening to the track on these headphones. Then I tried something by Turnstile, which is a band from Baltimore. I believe they're from Baltimore. Some people think of them as hardcore. I think of them more as sort of hard rock with some, I don't know, they got a lot of stuff going on. Let's call them hardcore for the sake of argument. Hard driving guitars, shouty vocals, completely total opposite of At 17 by Janis Ian. And the Kiwi Ears Ellipse handled Turnstile, I think it was Mystery was the song I listened to, flawlessly. I picked songs, this list, they're not my typical audition songs. They're songs that I have favorited on Spotify. And they're not ones that I listen to all the time, but they're ones that I just sort of felt like listening to, and I tried to pick a wide variety to try to stump the sound of the Ellipse. I would say one thing about the track by Turnstile, Mystery, was there was a bit of flatness with the Ellipse while listening to this track. This might have been one track that just didn't engage quite as hard, and I have a hard time identifying musically what was happening, but it sounded slightly veiled or flat, and I don't know if that's something that because I don't audition this track all the time is actually just inherent in the recording, or if that's something that the headphones just weren't able to bring out maybe some staging and some detail that I wanted to hear on the track. That was sort of the one track that just didn't quite hit for me. But I moved on to Suggestion by Fugazi. Fugazi is a band that I've seen, I don't know, probably back in the day, back in the 80s, maybe early 90s. I saw them 4 or 5 times, and I know their songs really well. It worked great. For a recording that is, I'm 30 years old now almost. Again, you know, I just sort of forgot I was listening to headphones and felt like I was a teenager in the pit, and it was a super fun experience. Then I listened to an acoustic track by the German band Super 700, kind of brought things down a little bit, sounded amazing, no complaints. I finished up with a bluegrass song by the band, the infamous string band, the cover of The Cure's Just Like Heaven. And that's a really fun song to listen to because it's bouncy, it's upbeat, but it has a double bass, it has banjo, it has guitar, really great vocals. And the Kiwi Ears Ellipse, once again, just allowed me to forget that I was listening to headphones and I sunk into the music. The staging is good. I wouldn't say that like I feel like I'm, at a live concert. It's pretty spacious enough. It didn't feel enclosed. It didn't feel super open. It felt balanced. The bass wasn't bloated in any track I listened to. The vocals weren't sibilant. The cymbal strikes weren't too harsh. It just did everything really well. And for $60, $59. So if I were going to complain, and you want to hear what's wrong, so I'm going to complain just a little bit. The cable's too long. It's 3 meters long. That's like the length of this room. We don't need a 3-meter cable. The ear cups are probably just a little bit bigger than I like. That's a personal preference. Wasn't such a problem because the clamp force was good and they're light. And then, maybe just this nitpicky Kiwi Ears logo is, I'm not a fan of the Kiwi Ears logo. It's okay. It's a good logo, but it's not my favorite. And I just wish it weren't white. I'm probably going to black that out. These are fantastic headphones, and I'm sure I'm going to use them a lot in the future. Probably as much as I'd use a very expensive pair of headphones unless I hear something and I'm wrong. And that happens. Like with IEMs. I recently got to audition the Audio Valhalla, which are $2,000, and they are really, really good. We're going to see that video in the near future. If you have a chance to try the Kiwi Ears Ellipse, I highly encourage you to give them a try. For $60, I seriously doubt that you'd be disappointed. If it's between the Division or the Ellipse for you, I'd lean towards the Ellipse unless you really do need a smaller, more compact package and full closed back isolation. Otherwise, I think for another $10, this is my pick. I'm James Demer, the Audio Nomad. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. This video is brought to you by Linsoul.com. Linsoul sells IEMs, headphones, amplifiers, digital to analog converters, cables, really just about anything you could want for personal hi-fi or even home hi-fi. Their prices are great, the quality is exceptional, and their customer service is really second to none. Check them out in the link below.